And there we go. All right. Well, this week we are going to talk about really how to do assignment 6 and assignment 6A. So 6A is required of all the 8306 students, and the 4300 students can do it optionally if they want to, and earn 50 points extra credit. So what we're really going to get at with these two assignments and the stuff that we're going to learn how to do tonight is how to import data into the database. And as a part of that, you know, we'll be doing some kind of fairly complex stuff. You know, it's things that a lot of folks maybe never do with their databases, but we're really going to show the power of how you can move data in and out of the database and in between databases and schemas using some pretty powerful functionality. So what we're going to start off with is we're actually going to start off with just doing kind of a simple spreadsheet import using SQL Developer. And on assignment 6, we have put the two files that you need to work with on this assignment. We're going to use those tonight as a basis of showing these examples. And Koivu has been gracious enough to volunteer to be my guinea pig here, because it makes it a lot easier to talk when I have somebody else doing the commands. So first thing, you know, I did mention in the assignment that you could use MobaXterm or PuTTY or something like that to get those spreadsheets up to your instance, but probably the simplest thing to do is to just go to Blackboard inside of your instance and just download those sheets directly from Blackboard. So Koivu, if you could just pull up Firefox again for me quick and just show the assignment 6. And if you just scroll your scroll bar on the right hand side down, we should be able to see Firefox at the bottom. And yeah, just go ahead and click on Firefox and then click on the Blackboard tab. So you see right here, if you're in Blackboard, you can actually just come in here and click the hyperlink for some of these documents, and they'll just download to your instance wherever Firefox is pointing. So when we downloaded our software way back at the beginning of the course, I think we should have set it up to go to your INV directory, and Koivu has already downloaded these, and these files are actually sitting in his INV directory, and then we'll be able to work with them from there. So you can see, you know, there it is. We just downloaded them, no problem. And that'll probably be quite a bit easier than moving the files along using MobaXterm. But you can do that too if you want to. It's kind of up to you on how you want to get the files there. So first thing that's very important, and in order for you to be able to do kind of the next task, we actually have to change the configuration on SQL Developer. And SQL Developer out of the box doesn't provide enough memory to do the type of operations that we need to do. So we actually have to tweak the configuration in order for it to work properly. And it's actually pretty easy to do, but if you miss this part, you're going to have a hard time. So Koivu, go ahead and click on your terminal window down there on the bottom, the tab all the way on the right there. Yep. And so Koivu is in the his home directory, and Koivu, if you would type pwd and hit enter, we can see that he is in the home Oracle directory. And maybe pull that window just a little bit to the right, yeah, so we can see it good. All right, so you can see he's in home Oracle, and if you type ls here in this window, you'll see we're looking for a directory. Go ahead and hit enter. We're looking for a directory that we can't see just using the ls command. We actually are looking for a hidden directory. So if you type ls space -a, that will actually show us our hidden directories. So now that he's done that, we can see that there is a directory there, .SQL developer, and the period in Linux indicates that that you have a hidden folder or a hidden file. And so what we're going to do is actually switch to that SQL developer directory. So Koivo, if you just type cd space period SQL and then hit the tab key, it ought to autocomplete for us. Yep, and now just hit enter. And if you type ls to list the contents of this directory now, we should see that there is a directory for the version of SQL Developer we're on, that 4.1.0. So if you type cd space 4 and hit tab, it should autocomplete. And hit enter. And now let's list the contents of the directory one more time. And then we can see this product config file, which is actually the file that we want to operate on. So go ahead and just type VI and then hit space and tab, and it ought to just autocomplete for you because there's only one file in here. Now hit enter. And we can see that we've just got this configuration file, and for the most part, things are commented out in it. And go ahead and arrow to the bottom of the file, if you would, Koivo. And then you'll need to maximize your VNC viewer window, I think, for us to be able to see the left-hand side. Or, yep, or do that. That works too. So now just arrow down to the bottom. And when we get all the way to the bottom of the file, we can see these XMX values right here. And that pound sign that you see essentially means that in this file, these values are all commented out. We're actually going to uncomment the very bottom entry. So Koivo, go ahead and just hit delete key once here. And that uncomments this entry out. And the thing that we want to do is actually set this value quite a bit higher than even the one it has in here. So we want to set this to 2048. So yeah, go ahead and hit I to get into edit mode. And then type 2048. Yeah, and then just delete those last two zeros. And then that will give SQL Developer the extra memory it needs in order to be able to do the import operation. So this is a very important step. If you don't do it, SQL Developer is not going to cooperate, and you're going to be very frustrated. So go ahead and hit escape, and then :WQ to write the file and quit. And hit enter. All right. And so now we should be ready to actually import, and I don't think we have to restart SQL Developer, but if we do, we'll end up, we'll go and restart it. But now, Koivo, let's just go ahead and click on SQL Developer, and let's go into SQL Developer now. All right, so here we are in SQL Developer, and we can see the Koivo's logged on as sys to my PDB1 on my CDB1, and we're actually going to import some data in here. So Koivo, if you would expand your connection on the left-hand side for sys on my PDB1, yeah, go ahead and hit the plus sign right there next to that connection. And then, yeah, scroll it down a little bit. And then you can just right-click on tables. And then we can say import data. And now it gives us this dialog box, which actually allows us to browse to a file that we want to import. So go ahead and click browse there over on the top right. And then we're going to browse to your INV directory where that file is sitting. So if you go ahead and click on Actually, there's an up arrow right there, a blue up arrow. Just yep, or you can do that. Just click on the
This one?
yep, that blue up arrow pointing up. Two icons over. There you go. Click that a couple of times till we get all the way up to the root directory. One more time, and then go ahead and click on the INV folder that you see right there. Yep. And then it's this 2015 Reg Stats Annual Report Final.csv file. And all this is I went to the Nebraska government page, and they have a bunch of open data. And this is a sheet that shows all of the, I think, vehicles that have been registered in Nebraska in 2015. So this is kind of a common use case when you're dealing with databases, and that somebody will have a data set somewhere or another that they dragged up, a lot of times in a CSV format or Excel or maybe some text or tab delimited format, and you need to import it into your database. And one of the simplest ways to do it is using just SQL Developer, and what we're going to do right now. This method has some limitations though, especially if you're going to be looking at large data sets. But for small data sets, it's actually pretty handy. So this sheet happens to be a pretty small data set. So we're going to go ahead and just double click this file here. Yep. And then Koivo, if you can double click on that 2015 Reg Stats. Yep. And now we can see that, hey, it's recognized the file, and we can actually see that it also recognizes that the file contains headers or column labels, and it recognizes the format, and it also recognizes that the delimiter in the file is a comma. And so you can see on the very bottom there that it's actually giving us a preview of the data that we're going to be bringing in. And we've limited this preview to 100 rows, but in theory you could look at all of the rows if you wanted to. But the preview thing is just meant to kind of limit the amount of memory you consume right here in this particular panel. So now that we can see that the system seems to be recognizing it, go ahead and hit next. And so now we can see here that it's asking us, hey, how do you want to import this thing? And we're basically saying that, hey, we're gonna go ahead and hit the drop down there for the import method, Koivo. So we can see there's a number of sort of different options that you can use here. We're going to show kind of how to use external tables at some point as well. But for right now, we're just going to go ahead and use the insert script method. So go ahead and click the insert script option. And then we just need to give the table that we're going to be creating a name here. And what we want to do is we want to name this table TOT.
TOT?
TOT as in tot or yeah, TOT underscore reg, REG underscore VEH. So it's just abbreviated for total registrations of vehicles, right? So now that we've got our table name here, we're going to go ahead and click next. Now we can see here, and in this step of the dialog, it's just showing us all the columns that we're going to import. Now we don't necessarily have to pick all of them if we don't want to, but we're going to. And then you can see one of the things that I've actually done to this file is cleaned up the column names quite a bit. So the file in its original form had a lot of spaces and funny characters in the column names. And that generally will make the database import process go very poorly for you. I didn't want to torture you guys too much on this, so I went ahead and cleaned up the column names and whatnot. And you can see basically anywhere where there's an underscore in these column names is a spot where I either replaced a space or a special character, because Oracle does not allow spaces or special characters in column or object names typically. So, okay, we can see that we're going to pull in all of these columns. So go ahead and click next. And now the dialog is really just asking us to go down through and kind of confirm the data types and the lengths of the fields that the system has chosen for us. And so with that 100 rows that we chose to sample, it essentially goes through and looks for the length of the field and tries to take a guess at the data type and all of those type of things. And so we can see here for this first column, it says county, and everything looks pretty good there. So Koivu, on the left-hand side there where it says source data columns, go ahead and I think you should be able to click on county and then just hit the down arrow to go to the next field. So yeah, now hit the down arrow. All right, so yeah, kind of arrow back up to the number there, or the NO. And so this is actually the county number, and this field ought to be an integer field. But a lot of times what'll happen when you're importing data, especially from open data sources, really anywhere, is the data will typically be kind of dirty. So you'll have a lot of problems if you try to get too declarative about types during the import process. So a lot of times the safest thing to do is just kind of import things as as varchars, which really just means that they're characters of a variable length. And then once you have the data imported into a table, you can do some of the cleanup on the data to make sure that you get all the types how you want it. We're not going to worry about it for right now, but just be aware there on that data type drop down, you can actually specify all sorts of different data types. And Koivu, go over there where the data type drop down is and just go ahead and hit the drop down on that dialog box. So you can see, here's all the various types of all the various data types that we could use of, particular interest, numbers, integers, dates, timestamps. And, if your data is in pretty good shape or you've cleaned it up a little before you can import it, you can go ahead and just set these as you do the import, or maybe you're going to choose to just import everything as a character field and then do your cleanup after, which is really what we're going to do. So, okay, Koivu, go ahead and click over there in the source data columns one more time, and let's arrow down through our fields and kind of validate that we don't have any problems with them. So, yeah, you can just arrow down slowly here. And we're just going to go ahead and kind of believe the system here as far as the data that it's picking up. You can see there's a number of null values for a lot of columns. Some of the number columns have commas in them, which would be problematic if we tried to declare them numbers inside of here. And then now when we get to this 10, we see that red exclamation point right there. That is the system telling you, hey, you've got two problems here. One, you cannot begin a column name with a number in Oracle. And the other thing that you cannot do is you cannot use a special character like a % in a column name. So we actually need to intervene here by going up to the name under the target table columns heading there, and we need to replace that 10% with something like the word 10 and maybe PCT as an abbreviation for %. So go ahead and 10 and then PCT. There you go. And now we can see that our source data column is gotten rid of the red exclamation point because our target table column, we've changed the name to something that that the database will accept. So now on the left-hand side there, just go ahead and arrow down the rest of the fields and make sure we don't have any import issues. Yep, you should be able to get down through these. And you could obviously rename any of these columns on the way in if you wanted to. I'm fine with them. We're mostly just trying to prove out the functionality here. But you, if you were doing this in the real world, might try to get these column names a little more dialed in. But that's kind of a preference thing. Typically, you'll have some sort of naming convention that you want to use, and a lot of times as a DBA, you will try to lean towards the side of brevity when it comes to naming objects, because if you have to type the names of those objects, having a 30-character field name gets to be kind of painful. So typically, we might take something like government and, abbreviate it to like GOVT and kind of save all that space in there. But for now, we won't worry about it. So let's go ahead and just click next. And here we can see that now it's giving us a summary of what we've got going on here. So Koivo, if you could just go ahead and expand some of those options there under the import summary. So yeah, on the destination, it's just saying, hey, we're going to create a table under the sys user. We can see that our source file is the file that we picked off the system. It tells you a little bit about the properties of the file, and then the fields that we've picked here. And then last is this import method. If you expand that out, it's just saying that, hey, go ahead, expand it again, that we are going to just create an insert script, and we're going to send that script to a SQL worksheet. So what the system's going to do for us is actually dump a script into one of our SQL worksheets that we can execute to create and import this data. So go ahead and click finish. All right, and then basically what it's saying is, hey, I barfed this all into a SQL worksheet and nothing went wrong, so we're in pretty good shape. So now go ahead and say okay there. And what you can see is going on here is we've got this set define off, which is just kind of telling the database to not be too grumpy about your syntax validation as we do some of this stuff. And then we can see we've got a create table statement here. And then if you scroll down, Koivo, we'll see after that create table statement. And I think this table's got about 30, 40 columns in it. So yeah. Scroll on down. And then after that, we can see that we've actually got the insert statements to put the individual values into the table. So the system has gone out or gone and written all the statements we need to take the data out of the CSV file that we have as a source, and insert all of these things into a table that we're creating as part of the script. Now you can see the data's got some issues just sort of right off the top. You can see that the values there for the very first line, Adams County, has a whole bunch of spaces in it. And this is kind of things where you might end up having to do a bunch of cleanup work. So typically you do an import function like this, and we might go through and then trim out all the white space in a bunch of these fields. And there's some fields that are, coming through as text, but are really probably numbers, and we might clean those up as well. But for our purposes here, we're just kind of fine with the way this works. So go ahead and click the execute script button, which is the little sheet with a green arrow next to the green arrow. Yep, go ahead and click that. And then, yep, it'll want to confirm the connection, and we're going to go ahead and just create this on the sys schema, even though we typically wouldn't. Okay, go ahead and click OK. And now we can see that it's kind of jammed through this thing and given us the script output in the bottom window. So Koivo, if you'll scroll that bottom window up to the very top, we can see if we get up there that, hey, it created the table, and then one at a time it went down through and inserted those rows. So if we wanted to confirm that we were successful at this, we could actually go over to our tables in our connections over there, Koivo. Go over there and right click on tables under your sys on my PDB1 connection. And we know that we're in the sys schema and there's a whole pile of tables. So we're just going to apply a filter to this. So go ahead and click that apply filter option. Yep. There you go, apply filter. And now we're going to hit the green plus sign to apply a filter to the tables that we see here. And then we're going to just type TOT, which we know is the first 3 letters in our table name. And then we'll just go ahead and hit the % sign, which is a wildcard character, which basically says, give me any table that begins with TOT. So now go ahead and say OK. And then this should filter the tables that we see under our table folder. And we can see that we have that total registered vehicles table that we just created. And now, Koivo, if you'll go over there and just double click on that table, we can see that it has indeed created the table for us. And then you can see we're looking at the columns tab here, which just tells us the column names and their data types and any other information that's kind of relevant about the column. If you go ahead and click on the data tab, which is the next tab over. So there you go, right there. There we can see here's the actual data that's been imported into our table. And so we can see that, hey, the script actually created the table and it actually imported all the data into our database. And so, like I said, for small data sets, this is a darn handy way to do things because one, it works remotely, and 2, it doesn't really require a heck of a lot of pain or suffering from a configuration or setup perspective. Now, if we wanted to clean up our data, we could use some functions on our data to take the spaces out and all that type of thing. But like I said, I'm not too concerned with that. I wanted you guys to get the idea of this is how we get data into the database using this one particular type of utility that's available to us. Now, the next thing that we're going to do to import data is a little bit more complicated, and it's also quite a bit more powerful. So the database, lives on the server that we've set up here, right? And it has access to the operating system or to the file system. We know because that's where our data files get stored. But we actually can enable access to other places on the file system as well by doing what's called creating a directory. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And Koivo, first thing I want you to do is go back to your editor window there, where we to the terminal window where we changed the product config file. So yep, go ahead and click on that. Open that up. All right, and so what we're going to do is we're going to switch back to our Oracle home directory here. So go ahead and type cd space tilde, which is just a shortcut to get us back to our home directory, and hit enter. And then we can always, you know, type pwd if we want to be sure we are where we think we are. And we can see that we are indeed in our Oracle home directory. So now what we want to do is we want to create a new directory. So we're going to use the make directory command. So that's mkdir, and then space, and we're going to name our new directory my Oracle dir with no spaces or anything. So just yeah, my Oracle dir. And then one thing I will tell you is always remember that Linux is a case-sensitive beast. So yeah, you know, hey, we might want to use camel case or we might not, but I prefer to just do it this way for simplicity's sake. So go ahead and hit enter now, and then type ls to show that we've created the directory. And we can see that the directory is sitting there, my Oracle dir. And what we want to do is we actually want to move one of the files we downloaded over to this directory. So Koivo, if you go ahead and click on your IMV folder down there on the bottom, yep, right there. We want to move this 2015 total.csv over to my Oracle dir. And I think the way you can do that here in Linux is you can just right click on that file there in the window. Yeah, go ahead and right click it. And then we can say move to. And then we ought to be able to surf to where we want to go. So if you go ahead and click on home up there near the top left, and then you should see the my Oracle dir that you just created on the right hand side. So go ahead and double click that, and then go ahead and I think click the select button up on the top right. All right. So now we should be able to see that the file's actually been moved over there. And oh yeah, go ahead and I don't know if you accidentally clicked. Yeah, go ahead and click cancel so we don't close SQL Developer. But that window does bring up a very good point. We imported all of these records into our database, but we didn't necessarily commit them, right? So Koivo, if you would, go ahead and click on that import SQL worksheet right next to your table here in SQL Developer. So the tab right there in the middle next to that tote, yeah, right there. And then go ahead and click the commit button, which is that little database icon with a green check mark. Yep, right up about 1 inch. Over, nope, over to the right about 4 or 5 icons, the little green check mark. It's right above the builder in the query builder word that you see right there. So it's a little round icon with a green check mark.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, there you
This
go.
one?
Yep, that's the one. Go ahead and click commit. And now we know that we've actually committed the transaction for this insert operation, and we won't lose our data. So now we just kind of want to confirm that that file got moved to the directory we think it did. So if you'll go down there and click on your terminal window down at the bottom, there you go. And then let's switch to our My Oracle directory. So if you just type CD and then space MY and hit tab to autocomplete, and then hit enter, and then ls to list the contents of the directory, we can see that our file is indeed exactly where we want it to be. So now we've created a directory on the operating system, or on the file system on our server, and we've moved our file there. And then there's actually a corresponding directory object that we can create inside of the database, which will give the database a pointer to this location. And so the way that we do that is we actually need to have the path on the file system to use in our command. So I'm going to make this easy on you, Koivo, and just go ahead and IMU the command here in the chat window. And then we're going to want to use that command in a new SQL worksheet in SQL Developer. So go ahead and when you get that copied, click on SQL Developer, and let's get a new SQL worksheet for sys here going. Yeah, so go ahead and just select sys on MyPDB1.
That one?
Yep. And that gives us a new worksheet, and then you should be able to paste that command that I gave you in the chat window there from our meeting. Or I can I IM'd it through the Ring Central group chat. Are you able to find that, or you want me to send it again?
I got it.
Okay. Hopefully you can just copy paste that right in here. And sometimes these desktops can be a little grouchy about about copy pasting from one OS to another. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it stops working on us. But Koivo, I think you stopped sharing on us. So when you can, please share your screen again.
Okay.
All right, so I'm not seeing your screen yet. There we go. All right. Yep. And if you want, I can just tell you how to type this as well. So you're going to say create directory, and then it's going to be my Oracle dir. The exact same name. I mean, we could name it whatever we wanted to here. And then you're going to do space as, and then we're going to give it the path on the file system. So it'll just be a single tick. Yeah, and we could actually copy it straight from the file system to the path if we wanted to.
Okay, as home Oracle, my Oracle D. Okay.
Yeah, but it looks like you stopped sharing your screen again too. So go ahead and share your screen again. There you go. And if you click down there in your terminal window, we can just we can copy the path directly. Or you can, yeah, you can type it in that way too, my Oracle dir. And then the only thing you'll want to make sure of is you're going to want to put the leading slash in front of that thing. So right there before the H in home, but on the other side of the tick. There you go, and then put tick mark there. And so now we're just giving the database a path on our file system. So we're saying create a directory object on the database that points to this location on the file system so that we can actually access this when we're using some functions on the database. We happen to name the directory object on the database the same as the directory that we created on the file system, but that's not required. We could have said create directory Fred and use the same path, and it would have worked just fine. There's no dependency between the database object name and the file directory that exists on the file system. So now go ahead and execute this command. And we can see, okay, it's created the directory and it didn't get mad at us or anything. And so at this point, we can actually do what's called creating an external table. And what that means is we're going to map out an object just like we were creating a table, but we're going to point it to this location in our directory. And we're going to go ahead and then be able to access our file directory as if it access our file that's in that directory as if it was a table in our database. It is just a CSV file, but one of the great things that we can do is point to a file and treat it exactly like it was a table in the database. And that's a very powerful functionality because it allows us to, use this type of stuff for importing data. So if you're doing a lot of data warehousing, believe it or not, files are still used very frequently to move data around. And then also, it gives us this ability to use file sources inside the database without necessarily having to bring them into the database and consume space on the database if we don't want to. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead then and try and IM this stuff to you again one more time, Koivo, and we'll see how it goes, basically. But I'm going to IM you a big create table statement here, and then if you can copy paste that into your SQL developer worksheet, then we can talk about what's going on with this statement. The other thing you can try sometimes too is kind of disconnecting from your VNC viewer and then connecting again, and sometimes that'll fix some of the copy paste issues. Other things you can try, I think by default, everybody, the VNC viewer will be set up to allow copy paste between desktops, but it can be a little grumpy sometimes, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work so great. If you can't copy paste it, I can certainly give you the commands to kind of type one at a time as well, and we can do it that way. But with any luck, you'll be able to copy paste it. I suppose the other thing that we could do is we could just access it straight through Blackboard. I could post the commands up there, and then you should be able to grab them right off of your desktop. Toivo, are you having any luck copy pasting that from the chat window?
No.
Okay. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the course materials in Blackboard, and I'm actually going to put another item in there, and I'll paste this text right in. So I'm just going to name it create table, and then go ahead and share your screen with us again, and let's see if we can pull it right off of Blackboard. All right, so yep, if you go to Firefox down there on the bottom, and then scroll up and go under course materials, and scroll to the bottom, you should see, yep, and let's see if you can just copy that text straight out of there. There we go. All right, now all we're going to want to do then is probably format this a little bit so we can actually read it. So right there, yep. And then where it says organization there, go ahead and hit enter one more time.
Right here?
Yeah, hit enter. And then, yeah, let's, yeah, then go down to the terminated by, yeah, there you go. You got the idea. Just get that formatted in a way we can use. And all right. And then go ahead and go down there to where it says location and hit enter too. So what we're doing here is we're actually, we're creating a table which is really just kind of a pass-through entity for a file on the file system. So if you take a look at this command, we say create table, and we call the table, tot.reg, and then we give, we call out 3 different columns here. So we call reg type, and we say it's a varchar2, length of 100. We have a reg subtype, length of 100, and we have a reg count, a length of 100. And then we can see the next clause is organization external, which tells the database that, hey, this is an external table, which means it's essentially a file source. And then, the type Oracle loader is the utility it uses to load the data in. And then Koivo, where it says Oracle loader there, go ahead and put a space in between Oracle loader and default on that next line up from where your cursor is. So you see Oracle loader, just put a space there. All right, so what we're really trying to say here is the default directory that we're using. Then we can see it's my Oracle dir, and then you can see there again, Koivo, right there at my Oracle dir, there should be a space in between the my Oracle dir and access. So go down 2 lines and yeah, right there. Let's put a, go ahead and just, yeah, you can hit enter there if you want to even. So the clause that we're really saying here is access parameters, and then we say records are delimited by new line, and then Koivo, we need to hit enter between new line and fields there. And, sorry for when I pasted this online, it must have kind of stripped out a bunch of the spaces here. So go ahead and just hit enter. There we go. And so we're saying, we're essentially telling the system here that this is a CSV file, because we're saying that our fields are terminated by commas. They might be optionally enclosed by parentheses, which is a pretty common case in CSV files, that if you have a field that has a comma inside of it and you don't want to use that as a delimiter, then you'll often put parentheses in there. And then we're ultimately saying that the file name that we're looking for is this 2015 total.csv. So before we create this, let's actually take a quick look at this file. So Koivo, if you go back to your terminal window down there at the bottom, and then let's just type VI space and then tab, and let's take a look at our file. Yeah, go ahead, hit enter. And so what we can see is we have a comma separated file here, which it starts off with column names of type, subtype, and value. And then we can see that, you know, we have passenger, regular, and then some sort of value that's in here. And you can see that those values are actually, in a lot of cases, enclosed by parentheses, which basically says, hey, this comma that's in this number here, don't use this as a field delimiter. And so that's why we use the clause in our table creation here. So this is the file that we're trying to essentially access using the database. So rather than really importing the data in here, we're going to access the file directory directly through the database. So let's go back to SQL Developer and let's see if we can actually execute this command without something going horribly wrong, which I'll give us about a 50-50 shot on because of the problems that are just inherent with trying to pass stuff through HTML sometimes. So go ahead, go back to SQL Developer here, Koivo. And now what I want you to do is I want you to actually execute this create table statement. So go ahead and highlight the whole thing. And oh, you can see you executed. So it says, hey, this tote reg table was created. So now go ahead and hit enter a couple of times. And let's do select star from tote reg and see if we can actually see the data that's inside of it. All right, and yeah, put a semicolon after that too, and go ahead and execute that command. Oh yeah, and you got to put from, select star from tote reg. All right, and go ahead and execute. And there we go. We can see, hey, we are actually accessing a file in a directory on our file system and exposing it as a table. And kind of right off the bat, what you can see going on here is we've got we've got a sort of a couple of data issues here. One, the column labels are the first row in our table, and that doesn't do us much good. And then we also know that we have a number at the a number field, that reg count, but it's got commas in it, and we know it's really being seen as a character field, so it's not really recognizing it as a number at the moment. So what we want to do is we actually want to kind of change, we want to write a kind of more complex SQL statement to clean this data up a little bit. So Koivo, go ahead and hit enter a couple of times here. And then we're going to want to, and then over on the right-hand side there, where you have your tote reg vehicles table, go ahead and collapse that table on the left-hand side. Yeah, go ahead and hit the collapse there. And then let's refresh our tables view. So right-click on tables and select refresh. We should see our new table here. And then we're going to be lazy here and go ahead and click on the tote reg table and then just drag it over to the SQL worksheet. So click on it and drag it over. It doesn't look like it, and there it goes. And just let go. Yeah, maybe try it one more time. Or click and hold and drag it over. There we go. That's what we're looking for. And here what we're doing is, hey, let's just let the system write us a select statement. Go ahead and click apply. And the reason we're doing this is because we want to actually apply a function to this reg count. So the very first thing that we're going to want to do with that reg count is we're going to want to replace the commas in any of these fields with nothing. So right there where you see you have your reg count field, Koivo, arrow over to that field, the reg count. Yep, and go right to the head of that. Yep, and go ahead and type the word replace. And then an open paren. And then after the reg count field, I want you to put a comma. So go to the end, yep, comma. And then single tick, comma, single tick. Yep, comma, yep, put a comma in there. And then after the single tick, comma.
Again, like this?
Yep, yep, and then 2 single ticks and a closed paren. Just like that, yeah. And so what we're saying is, hey, look in this reg count field for any commas, the second part of our clause, the comma in between the 2 ticks, and then replace it with nothing, the 2 single ticks that have nothing in them. So now if you go ahead and execute this statement, we should see a change in the data down there. So now you can see that we've stripped out all the commas inside of that field, right? And so then we can actually get our numbers to be numbers at this point. Now, we're going to have a problem, though, because we're still pulling in those headers in the very first row. So we just need to use a where clause to get rid of those. So on the left side of the semicolon there, yeah, arrow over one there, Koivo. Go ahead, hit enter, and then type where, and then reg type, space reg type, reg underscore type. And then we're going to say not equal to, which you can either, nope, you could just do, there's a couple different ways to do it, but probably the easiest way is the less than, greater than sign right next to each other. Yep. And then we're going to just do single tick and the word type, which we can see is the value that's in that first column down there. So in between the 2 ticks there, just type type the word type. Yep, and it's a capital T if you take a look at that first row. There you go. So now execute that statement one more time, and we should have excluded the row that we don't want. And now the last thing we want to do is just convert our number to a number. So we're just gonna wrap our replace statement in a function called toNumber. So go up there to the head of the replace statement, Koivo, and type oh nope, to the head, left hand side. Yep. Type to_number, to_number. There you go, and open paren. And then go to the end of the statement and put a close paren. So go all the way, yep, all the way to the end. So now we're taking this value where we've stripped out the commas and we're converting it to a number. So go ahead and execute this statement. And now we've actually converted those values to a number, and then the database will kind of treat them as such. And so at this point, we've cleaned up our data that's in this file from the perspective of we've used SQL functions to manipulate the data to make it to exclude the data we don't want and convert the data that we want to be a number into a number. And so now one of the things we can do, and what we need to do as a part of our assignment then, is we're just going to create a new table, which is actually a table inside of the database with the data inside of the database, where we just import this this data in from this file source. So the easy way to do this, Koivo, if you'll just arrow up 2 lines and hit enter for me. And then we're just going to type the statement create table and then we're going to call this one tote reg clean. So let's just do tote_reg_clean. And one of the great things you can do with the SQL results is you can actually use them as the means to create a table. So if you just type, if you just hit space and type as, we're going to say create this new table out of this SQL statement that we've written. So go ahead and type the word as. Yep. And now execute this statement. Nope.
Oh.
Get rid of semicolon. We're saying to create this new table as out of the results of this select statement. So go ahead and execute it. And oh, yep. And so what it's upset about here is if you recall what we were seeing in our query result, we had the function name as our column name here. And what this message is telling us is, hey, I don't want to see toNumber replace reg count blah 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 as a column name. You have to alias this. And so Koivo, if you'll go to the end of your toNumber clause in the SQL statement there, at the end of the toNumber function, yep. So go all the way to the end there, and go all the way to the end down by the from. There you go, and hit space. And then to alias really a table or a column, all you'd have to do is give it a name after the name. So we'll just call this reg_count. So we're just going to alias this function back to the original column name. So reg, yep. Now go ahead and execute the statement. And it's happy, it created the table, and it should have inserted all the data from the file on the file system into a table on the database. So on the left-hand side, if you go over there to tables, and you go ahead and hit refresh, And now you can see we've got that tote reg clean. And if you double click that tote reg clean on the left-hand side, we can go inspect that table and go ahead and click on the columns tab up there. And we can see that, hey, that reg count is actually been created as a number where it was a varchar in our table definition, in our external table definition. And then obviously we started out on the data tab, and we can see that we've actually imported all of this data into our table. So interestingly, on the left-hand side there, we can see that SQL Developer gives us an indication that that tote reg table is actually special. It's an external table, so we're really just pointing at a file. But then we've used that definition to import data directly into our database. And this is a very, very common use case that you would come across with databases. And the great part about this is it doesn't face the same type of constraints that you might face from a size perspective if you were just trying to use SQL Developer. And you should essentially be able to move about any size file that you can imagine into a directory object like that and be able to import it. And it's possible to do operations on zip files and everything, and there's sort of all sorts of stuff you can do with this. So that is very powerful functionality, and something I think that anybody who's going to be utilizing a database ought to know how to do. And that pretty much covers everything that you'll need to do for assignment 6. There's a bunch of SQL statements in the assignment that will essentially just kind of prove that that you did the work and you were able to do it correctly. So in external tables is one way we can get data into the database, and we could certainly export data as a CSV file if we wanted to. But typically, if you're going to be moving large amounts of data either between schemas or between databases, say like in a development, test, production environment scenario, there are other utilities that are a little more suited for these type of activities. And one of those is Datapump, which can also be used to back stuff up. But it's very powerful utility that allows us to move tables and objects in and out of the database. And for the 8360 students or 8306 students, and anybody that wants to do the extra credit stuff, then this is what we this is the next utility that we've got to be able to use. And so Koivu, I guess I can try pushing a bunch of these commands out to Blackboard one more time. Let's see if we can't put it somewhere that's a little less painful to grab. So give me just 1 second here. All right, so this time, you know what I think I'll do is I'll actually give you a file, and that should make this quite a bit easier to deal with. Go ahead and copy this stuff into a text file. So give me just a moment here. this up to Blackboard. All right, so you should, if you refresh your Blackboard browser there, you should see a 6A SQL. So go ahead, just hit refresh in Blackboard. And there you go, that should do it. And then let's scroll to the bottom. There you go. And go ahead and click that. And go ahead and save that file there. All right, so now if you go back to SQL Developer, you should be able to just open that file directly. So go back to SQL Developer. And one of us might be having, there we go. So then if you go to your INV directory, which, yeah, just arrow all the way up, you should get there. All right, and then the 6A SQL, perfect. All right, so here what we have is we're going to use the Datapump utility, which is actually a lot like SQL Plus. It's something that we're going to not use from inside of SQL Developer. It's a utility that lives on the server. And we're going to use it to move some data around. But in order to do that, the first thing we need to do is actually create some users to be able to do that. So Koivu, you can see here we've got this create user command for the Datapump user. So go ahead and execute that, that particular statement there.
Okay.
Yep. So you've created the Datapump user. You can see that we've assigned the table space as the new user's table space that you should have created as part of your other assignment here. And then we just want to, give our user an unlimited quota on our new user's table space. So go ahead, Koivu, execute that alter user command, the next one down. Yep, go ahead and execute that. And so now we've granted unlimited access for this particular table space. And then if you keep arrowing down here, Koivu, we want to grant this user the ability to connect to the database and then give the user the ability to create tables and whatnot, which is why we'll grant the user the resource role. So go ahead and execute those two statements there, Koivu. All right, and then the last thing we need to do is we're going to make sure that this Datapump user has the ability to read and write to our directory object on the file system. So this allows this user to create files from within the database onto the file system. So go ahead and execute that command. And so now this user can read and write to that directory. So let's go ahead and arrow down some more. The next thing we're going to do is just create another user. for the kind of other half here. So go ahead and execute this command. And this user is basically just a carbon copy of the user we just created. But we're going to see how we can use the Datapump utility to move data from one schema to another. So go ahead and arrow down. And let's just do the same thing, give a quota on the new user's table space, and then keep going. We'll grant the roles to this user so that they can connect to the database and have permissions to create objects. And then we're going to also give this user the ability to read and write from this directory. And so now we've kind of set our two users up. If you arrow down, we can actually create an object that we can move around. So if you see what we're doing here, we're creating a table in the Datapump user schema. We're creating really the same table in this schema. So we're gonna the Datapump underscore user dot tells the system we're going to create a table in this user schema, and we're going to create this table as a select star from the table that we just created in the sys schema. So go ahead and execute that command, and now that Datapump user table ought to be created. And Koivu, if you just go ahead and hit enter a couple times and do a select star from the Datapump user tote reg clean table. And if you want to just copy paste that whole name from up there, that might be the easiest. Yeah.
From here?
Yeah, that one. No, you just need the table there. There you go. Copy that and paste that. Semicolon. Go ahead and execute. And we should see that, lo and behold, we have created a table in our new user schema. So, okay, life is good. Now we actually want to use our Datapump utility, and the Datapump utility has two kind of modes, right? You can export and you can import. And so I've got the commands here. But the first thing we'll do is we can actually just go and kind of confirm that this thing works. So Koivu, go ahead and open up your terminal window here. And then go ahead and hit escape semicolon Q to get out of this file. And then what we ought to be able to do now is if we've correctly configured our system variables like we did a while back to make sure that you can, you didn't have to reset all your variables or do the .or/env every time you wanted to fire up SQL Plus or any of those things, then we ought to be able to just fire up the Datapump utility as well, because it will it will automatically know where to execute that command from. So I believe the command is, if you type expdp and then space help equals y, and hit enter. So I think what we're seeing here is it's case sensitive, and this really ought to be in lowercase. So exp dp and then help equals y. And let's try that one more time. So here we could see, okay, it went ahead and just what the help utility does is it gives you all the various commands that you can execute using this utility. So Koivu, if you scroll up a little bit in your window, so use the scroll bar on the right-hand side. There you go. You could see all the commands that are available as a part of the Datapump utility. And this is really handy with, you know, if you're trying to figure out some command or another, or want to know how to do something, this will at least give you kind of a hint of all the commands that you can include as a part of invoking the Datapump here. And they even sort of throw in a little example here using the Scott user, which would typically be installed as a part of your sample schemas in your database. So you can see that they try to give you a kind of a hint of how to use this thing. Now, if you go back to SQL Developer, you'll see in the comments of that file that I have there, I've actually got a command for you to use. So let's go ahead and arrow down a little bit here. Yep, and the second export command is really the one that we're going to want. So arrow up one line. Yep, arrow up one line, and then just copy that whole line. The second expdp line.
This one?
Yeah, copy that whole line there. Yeah, and you don't need the /* at the head of that if you want to make your life easy for when we're going to paste that into the our terminal window. Yep. So go from there all the way to the end, and you won't need the // at the end either when you get there. There you go. So go ahead and copy that. And then let's go to our terminal window. And go ahead and scroll all the way to the bottom again here. And then, yeah, if you arrow down, you should run out of commands, or just hit Control-C. It ought to get rid of, jump you down a line. There you go. Now paste that command in there. All right, and now if we take a look at this command, Koivu, if you can kind of expand that editor window off to the right, or yeah, go full. Although I can't really see the left-hand side too well there. There you go. All right. So what we can see here, if we take a look at the command that's on the screen, is we're basically invoking the Datapump export, which is the expdp, the first part of the command, and then we are giving our we're giving the command the credentials to log into the database. So we're saying, hey, Datapump user at myPDB1 on myCDB1 with the password of Datapump user, and then we're saying dump all this stuff into this toteregclean.dmp file. We're going to use this directory equal to my Oracle dir, which we know about. The schema that we're going to look at is the Datapump user, and we're going to tell the utility that we only want to export the tables out of this schema. Now, we could have a whole pile of stuff like views and procedures and all these type of things that we could export, but we're using this include equals table command to just limit it to the table object that's in there. And then Then the last piece of that, I think we're just seeing the editor kind of give us a little squirreliness there at the end. So that's the whole command. Now, if you hit enter and execute this, we're going to find out it doesn't work. So go ahead and hit enter. And so what it's telling us is, hey, I tried to connect to using this Datapump user at my PDB1 on my CDB1, but my TNS could not resolve the connect identifier specified. And so on your Oracle database, it actually has a file called the TNS names file, which tells services like this how to connect to the database, right? And so what we need to do is we actually need to put this service into the TNS names file so that it can resolve this and actually connect to the database. And the way that we do that is actually pretty easy. Koivu, go ahead and type CD to change directory, and then we're going to do space / U01 to switch to our U01 directory. And now go ahead and hit enter. Now we're just going to use the find command to look for what I know is this TNS names file. So you do find space -name. You want to do -name. Yeah. Oh, you'll want a space. Yeah. Space -name. And then I believe it's all lowercase. It's going to be TNS names, all one word, TNS names, .ora. And if I didn't screw that up, we should find it. Go ahead and hit enter. And we can see, hey, there's two spots where this file exists. One is under admin samples, which is where they just give you an example TNS names file. And the other one is under admin TNS names aura, which is actually the file that's used by the database. So we're going to go ahead and open that file. So Koivu, if you go ahead and type vi space, and then you copy that path from the A in app all the way through the file name in the next line above, we should be able to just open this file directly from right here. So yeah, go ahead and copy. No, you need to copy the path as well. So the app, Oracle, yeah, all that. Not that line, the next line down though. And starting at the A. Yeah. Go ahead, copy it and paste it and we can fix it. So yeah, now type VI and paste it in there. Yeah, and paste. And then that leading slash will cause you problems. So if you arrow all the way back to that leading slash on app and just delete it and then just hit enter. And now we're in this file and we can see stuff that ought to look kind of familiar to us here, right? We can see a connection for my CDB2, my CDB1. There's stuff in here for our listener. What we need to do is put in a connector for our pluggable database. So Koivu, if you will just arrow down to your my CDB1, and you can see it says my CDB1 =, and then it has all that stuff and ends with a closing paren. What I want you to do is hit I to get into insert mode. And then I want you to copy the whole my CDB1 all the way down to that closing paren that's about 5 lines down. So copy that whole entry there. I'm not sure what you hit there. Go ahead and let's just bail out here. Go ahead, hit escape :Q exclamation point. So if you're ever in a file and feeling kind of panicky about what you did, you can always just jump out of it. So exclamation point, hit enter, and say, hey, I want to quit this without writing anything. Now just up arrow, let's jump back into the file. Yeah. And go ahead and copy that entry there. Yep.
Right there?
Yep, that's perfect. Go ahead, copy. Now I just want you to arrow up one from where the cursor is. So if you just arrow up one line, yep, and then hit, oh, now go right down, yep. Now hit enter twice, and then arrow up once, and then paste. There you go. So now we copy that, and we're just going to change the label on this. So if you go up to the myPDB1, I want you to type myPDB1 _ and you no leave. Go ahead and leave myCDB1 right in there because you're going to need it. Yeah, go right to the head of the line. No, to the left-hand side. There you go. Type myPDB1 _ on _ and then get rid of one of those C's you got in myCDB1. There you go. You guys might recognize this as your pluggable database. And now we need to arrow down to our service name there, where it says service name equals myCDB1, and just type in the same thing. So go down there to service name, not there, one line down, yep. And right over there, and then just type the same thing. And this is just like the connection inside a SQL developer, where we would put the service name in. Yeah, go ahead and hit delete once to bring that over. There you go. So we've named the connection in here, myPDB1 on myCDB1. We could have named the connection Fred. It could be Fred equals. What's important is the connection parameters that we have here. And so we're just telling it, hey, this is the connection and here's how to get to it on the database. So now at this point, you can hit escape :WQ to write the file. Now we have an entry in our TNS names. If we switch back to our my Oracle dir, which you could just do cd space tilde, well, you'll have to go back to your home directory. So you need tilde and / my Oracle dir, or now cd my Oracle dir. And at this point, we ought to be able to execute that command. So go ahead, hit enter. And if you arrow up a couple of times, we ought to see our Datapump command again. So just arrow up until we find it. There it is. Now go ahead and hit enter. And we can see it is trying to connect to the database. And it looks like it's being successful. And we can see that it's processing stuff. And then eventually, if we haven't screwed anything up, it ought to successfully export our table. Now you can see we may have told it to just export a table, but it also exported any objects that would be related to a table as well. And then you see the last thing it said, hey, we exported 112 rows, and we were successful at this. So now, Koivo, if you go ahead and type ls, we should see in the directory now that we have that we actually have our dump file that we created, right? So you can see tote-reg-clean.dmp. That actually contains everything that we need to create the table and import the data. And then we also have the export log, which essentially has the exact same information as we saw barfed out on the screen here, right? So as a part of your assignment, I'm going to want to see the export log, a screenshot of that, showing me your, the IP address at the top of your terminal window, as well as the stuff inside of the export log that tells us you were successful. So now if we wanted to import this into another database or another schema on the database, we can actually go back and get the command that I've got in the Oracle SQL Developer. So Koivo, go ahead, go back to Oracle SQL Developer there, and let's grab the import command this time around. So, yep, you see that impdp command, the last one there. Go ahead, copy that whole line. We don't want the /*. Yep. Okay, go ahead and copy that. Now let's go back to our terminal window. On the right hand side, perfect. Let's go ahead and paste this thing in. And if you take a look here, this time around we're invoking the import Datapump. We are giving it the credentials for our Datapump user 2. We have defined the service name and our TNS name's Aura, so we don't have to worry about that this time around. We are saying, hey, we want you to look at the total reg-clean.dmp file, which we know is in our directory, my Oracle dir. And the critical part of this command here is we are saying, hey, this table got exported out of a schema named Datapump user, but we know we are importing it into a schema named Datapump user 2. So we're using the remap schema command here to say, hey, remap this from Datapump user to Datapump user 2. And so Koivo, if you'll go ahead and just go ahead and hit enter. Now we can see that, again, it's logging in, it's processing stuff. It's saying, hey, I imported a table, 112 rows, and it looks like everything was successful. So now if we want to prove that, let's go back to SQL Developer. And we're logged in as the sys user on my PDB-1, but we have this handy ability to browse schemas as the sys user. So Koivo, if you'll right click on the sys on my PDB-1 connection up there, right above tables on the left-hand side, right click and go to schema browser. And now hit the drop down there where it says sys, and let's go to Datapump user 2. So scroll up, we should see Datapump user 2. Lo and behold, there it is. And if we click on that, we can see that there is indeed a total reg clean table in here. And Koivo, go ahead and double click that table. And if we open that thing up, we can see that it's obviously been created. And Koivo, if you click on data, we'll see that the data has also been imported. And so what's very, very, very important to realize here is this is a brand new object that was created on this schema as a result of us exporting it from one schema and importing it into this one using that Datapump utility. And the Datapump utility is a very powerful tool which can move really massive amounts of data very quickly. So this is a great set for moving big data sets from one place to another. And I guess if we really wanted to prove to ourselves that this was a brand new table, Koivo, if you go over to the SQL tab, which is all the way to the right. Nope, keep going. Oh, sorry. Go back and click on the table again.
This one.
Yeah, click on that. And on the same tab row as the data tab, go all the way over to SQL, which is all the way to the right. Yeah, go ahead and click on that. And here we should see the actual create SQL, which kind of demonstrates to us that, oh, this brand new table got created. And we can see it wrote the create table command for the Datapump user to total reg clean. So there you go. That's how you can move data around in between schemas on databases. We could have done this between my PDB. We could have moved this data over to our MyCDB2 database. You guys could give me these dump files and I could import them into my database. You could exchange them with each other. And so you can see why that's a very powerful utility. And moving data around, doing backups and this type of thing is something that DBAs would have to do all the time. And even if you're not a DBA, if you're just a lowly developer perhaps who is managing their own database, being able to move many, many objects around in a quick, easy way is a very important thing you need to do. And you can see that using that Datapump utility, we could have chosen to move an entire schema. We could have chosen to move the entire database. We can pick up table spaces and move them around. It's a very powerful utility, and I'm not going to make you guys suffer through getting into you know, all the ins and outs of it, but you know, if you're interested in this type of stuff, then definitely spend the time to read up on it. So that that pretty much runs us through everything we need for this week. And if you pay attention, then you ought to be able to do assignment 6 and 6A. I will be cranking out assignment 7 and assignment 8 as quickly as I can for you guys, which will get you to the end of the course, which I'm sure you're all looking forward to. But we are, you know, we're 6/8 through, we're 75% through with assignments at this point, as far as them being posted, and you can complete them. And we will get the rest of the assignments well before you guys are getting into finals week or anything like that. So it's my expectation that you should be able to finish this course well before you have to deal with finals and all your final projects and stuff that I'm sure you guys have all started for the rest of your courses. So with that, I will open it up to see if there's any questions about what we've covered this week. And then if not, I can stop the recording, and then if anybody had any other questions, we can address those. So anybody have any questions about the stuff that we just did? All right. Well,
Are you gonna put a PowerPoint slide for this?
No, I've got, I'll go ahead and leave all the commands on Blackboard for everybody to access.
The commands that you just put in the chat box right now, Professor?
Yeah, so okay. One, I'll make sure that the chat box I'll put up for this week, And then under the course materials, the other create table and the commands to do the rest of the stuff you need will all be there for you guys to access. So the lecture recording and that stuff on Blackboard is all I'm going to put up there, but that ought to do it. If you can't get it done with all that information, then you're just not trying that hard. So, but anyways, and if anybody has any questions, obviously I'm around to answer questions. And if you get stuck on something, I expect where most people will have problems is either in changing the configuration on SQL Developer or making sure they get that TNS names entry right. But if you look here at the lecture, you'll see that that we covered that pretty well. And if you have any questions, you can obviously reach out to me. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and click stop recording, and then I'm going to hang around for a few minutes here. And if anybody has other questions I can help with, then I'll be happy to help. Otherwise, I will see everybody next week.
Will you be around for questions on assignment 5?
Yep, I'll be here for. Let me just stop the recording.
Not now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll be around. I should be around this week. Probably the best way to reach out to me, honestly, is to ping me through Skype. I'm most likely going to see that during the day, and I will do my best to ping you back and let you know when I'm available.
All right.